Tucker Carlson's interview with Vladimir Putin is reportedly going to be up tonight at 6 p.m. on Tucker Carlson's website. I don't believe that Vladimir Putin is going to say anything that we haven't heard already, to be completely honest. But I think the context of the conversation, and I believe the deliverability, is one of the most important things we can get out of this interview. I think it's fair to say Vladimir Putin is in a ton of viral videos expressing his thoughts and opinions on so many issues. But perhaps I'm wrong. I will not underestimate Tucker Carlson. He is one of the best, if not the best. And I think we're going to get some very serious insights. And I think there could be some more nuanced takes on how things are going. Thus, I am extremely interested to see what Vladimir Putin has to say to Tucker Carlson. I hope Tucker asked about imprisoned American journalists. In his announcement, Tucker Carlson made some errors, and he was even corrected by the Russian press secretary, I believe? I don't know the official position, but a spokesperson for the Kremlin, I believe it was, saying that many journalists have tried to interview Vladimir Putin from the West, but they're not interested in working with biased journalists who are going to give a one-sided view on this. I don't blame them. I don't. Right now, the propaganda is out in full force. You got Jimmy Kimmel making up garbage nonsense to keep people in a stupor. You've got the Washington Post arguing. I mean, this is not even news. That the interview with Vladimir Putin shows outreach to Trump's GOP. The game they are playing. You know, I look at this stuff. Hillary Clinton calling Tucker Carlson a useful idiot. And I don't know where we go. I really don't. But there is a culture war in full swing, and it is undeniable. We have two factions in this country, the zombie horde marching in lockstep behind Jimmy Kimmel, not literally, but the likes of Jimmy Kimmel, and those that are in tune with larger conversations, different takes on the news, different opinions. You know, they call it left versus right. And my view is it's kind of, you can call it multicultural democracy versus constitutional republic, but that's just one component. Libertarian versus authoritarian, perhaps. Collectivist versus individualist. And maybe that's it. What is referred to as the quote unquote right by the corporate press includes liberals, but liberals who don't follow the fake news put out by the establishment. I'll tell you my view as we dive into the current updates on what's happening with Tucker Carlson's Vladimir Putin interview. I don't believe we've had a legitimate system of governance for a long time. I think most of you agree. I don't believe that we've had legitimate options in the presidency for a long time. I think most of you agree. I grew up in a country where everyone seems to hate every candidate, yet somehow that's just who gets in. Now, I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm not saying there's a deep state controlling who does get in and who doesn't. I think it could, in fact, be a conspiracy, or it could be more of an emergent phenomenon based on how money is spent, interests between various corporate and political leaders, which results in a system of governance where no one is ever happy. So I don't know. I can just say, I don't know anybody who liked George Bush versus John Kerry or Al Gore. Certainly there are supporters of these individuals, but the saying as it goes in this country is the lesser of two evils. And then along comes Donald Trump. There is no legitimate claim to a Trump cult. That's what the left tries to argue. But in fact, I think it's fair to say the left is the cult. The left doesn't seem to follow anything or anyone. They have no moral framework. It is just you're with us or else. They lie all the time, or at the very least are dishonest or misrepresent facts. They use comedians like Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel to falsely represent what is really going on to keep people locked in their stupor. And that's why we call it Trump derangement syndrome. And I want to take that in a literal sense. Derangement. There's no effective communication with these people. Now, I get it. Trump certainly has his zealots. Absolutely. But I mean, look at a show like this. What you're listening to now is a single segment on Timcast News on YouTube, a component of the Tim Pool Daily Show on all podcast platforms. I read the corporate press. I'll read conservative news outlets. We will assess the facts and try and determine what is true and what isn't. And I think most of the people who listen to my show have differing opinions to me on various issues. We don't completely agree. We admit when we're wrong on certain issues, and we try to entertain all angles. Someone asked, name one good thing Joe Biden has done. I believe on Timcast IRL, we were incapable. However, I do think it's fair to point out that the Biden administration is working to get rid of ATM overdraft fees and exorbitant banking fees. I think that's a good thing. I do. I think it's silly or absurd to say that absolutely there's nothing we could agree on. However, when you look to the corporate press, they lie every day about Donald Trump. They misrepresent his positions or things he said because it's about control. There's an alleged transcript of the interview between Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin. I believe it's fake. I don't believe it's real. Many people have been sharing excerpts from it, but I believe it's fake because the pace of the questions don't make sense. It's basically like Tucker question, Putin, paragraph answer. Tucker question. Yeah, I really doubt that's the conversation Tucker had with Vladimir Putin. But in it, there is a question about whether or not this country is actually being run with the will of the people, something to that effect, to which allegedly Putin responded that they don't see Joe Biden as being in control. And I don't believe the transcript is real. It's a simplistic answer. But I bring it up because there's a fair point to be made. How many people in this country actually agree with the worldview of the corporate press of Hillary Clinton? It's a minority. And we know this because we have aggregate polling today. Donald Trump is winning across the board. Donald Trump, it was recently shown in a poll in New York's, I believe, 3rd district. He is ahead by perhaps, I think, 3 or more points in a district Joe Biden won by 10 previously. I don't believe the establishment government represents anyone but their own interests. I think that there is a massive change happening in the mentality of this country, thanks in part to alternative and independent media, which is causing them to panic as they lose their iron grip on the hearts of this nation. They're losing. And thus, they cannot allow Tucker Carlson to interview Vladimir Putin. Now, Vladimir Putin's not a good guy. You would be stupid, sorry, I'll say it, to believe that this guy has our best interests at heart. If I had to place a bet down between Joe Biden, or let's put it this way, if I had to invest between the two, Putin or Biden, Biden 100% every single time, despite the fact I think he's crooked, I think he's evil, I think he's a terrible president. But the issue becomes, at least Joe Biden likes his house in Wilmington, Delaware. You know what I mean? I'm willing to bet Vladimir Putin would see our properties destroyed before he would see any harm come to his country, and I would expect that of him. And thus, it would be silly of anyone to take his word for it. As Tucker Carlson is set to launch this interview tonight at 6 p.m., which I hope everyone does watch. This is history in the making. I think it's important you all take it with a huge grain of salt. A huge one. But we'll see. The Washington Post is trying to imply that Putin is teaming up with Trump or Trump's GOP. They must falsely frame it in this way. Hillary Clinton says Tucker Carlson is a useful idiot. I feel a tremendous amount of hatred in my heart for the establishment political elites. The way they lie, cheat, and steal. I think this world would be, this country would be substantially better off if the news diets of the average person in this country was, of course, my show, Steven Crowder, Styx Hexenhammer, Glenn Greenwald, and Russell Brand, Dan Bongino, and I would say Kyle Kulinski, Breaking Points, Joe Rogan. The list goes on. Not any one of them individually. No, I think you'd have to listen to all of them, especially Breaking Points and Kyle Kulinski, and especially me saying, I think Kyle gets a lot of things wrong, but that's okay. Jimmy Dore. Shout out to Jimmy Dore. I believe if you were to watch all of these shows, you as an individual are looking in this great oracle database. I mean that figuratively, where you can see the likes of me, for instance, give my thoughts and opinions on these news articles that I pull up, and the interviews I do on the Culture War show, which, much to the chagrin of these corporate news journalists, is actual journalism. Sorry, crime war. Tim's not a journalist. I do an interview show once a week where I interview various figures on their thoughts and positions pertaining to their work. Chris, and I'm, of course, not a journalist anymore. But, of course, I get a lot of things wrong. And, of course, my opinions are just that. They're my opinions. So if you watch me and then you watch Jimmy Dore, you might be like, Tim was wrong on that one. Jimmy was right. But Sticks was wrong on that one. And Tim was right on this one. But Steven Crowder got this one. Sticks was actually right there. That's my point. If you watch the cookie cutter opinions of Jimmy Kimmel, your brain is jello. And that is a problem for this country. And the good news I can say is, as a total aside, Shane Gillis is going to be hosting Saturday Night Live this Saturday. And they fired him 5 years ago for offensive comedy he had done on various podcasts. Too bad. He's back. I think we're winning this culturally. But I want to point out something that I hope makes you very happy. I can't remember who tweeted it. It may have been Mike Cernovich. It may have been Michael. I think it might have been Cernovich. Could have been Malice. Could have been neither. So I apologize for not attributing properly. But it was a CNN video where they were talking about Donald Trump in the lead in the polls in aggregate. And they said, imagine spending 10 years calling Donald Trump a white supremacist, fascist dictator, and the people of this country intend to vote for him. The narrative machine has failed. Your propaganda machine is dying. The fake news has been suffering a bloodbath over the past couple of weeks with mass layoffs. Oh, by the way, Timcast is rapidly expanding. Our operation is doing particularly well. SCNR, a sister news organization, is in the process of growing as well, with a great future ahead of it. Some bumpy roads for Scanner for a long time, but we've never given up, and it is still here right now with an amazing news team that is reporting true and honest facts. We get things wrong. Everybody does. But our intention is not to tell you how to live your life. It's to just tell you what happened. Take a look at this from the Washington Post, for instance. They say, as Russian state television propaganda salivated over Tucker Carlson's interview with President Vladimir Putin, the first of Carlson's falsehoods, and there it is. You know, I was reading a story in Fortune. It's not news. Where is this labeled opinion? It's not. Democracy dies in darkness. You know, one of the issues I take with SCNR, for which I am an owner, principal owner, is that, you know, I actually think you can insert some important context around certain things, but Scanner tries to play it straight, and I actually do respect it. But sometimes I'm like, pro-life, we don't do it at Scanner. Pro-choice, pro-life. Those are political terms. They don't mean anything. You're either pro or anti-abortion. Pro-choice, what does that even mean? Pro-life, what does it even mean? Not interested. It's about abortion. And we try to make that distinction because I'm not here to use political terms to benefit one side or the other. So here it goes, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I see when I see Hillary Clinton say, this is what I think. When I see Hillary Clinton say he's a useful idiot. When I see Jimmy Kimmel come out and insult Tucker Carlson. I say, Donald Trump is up in aggregate. And the polls typically favor the Democrat. Donald Trump is the majority. You are on the wrong side of history. Those who oppose what is happening here. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this interview. But you can see the outrage that they have. Let me show you this. From Huffington Post. Jimmy Kimmel burns Tucker Carlson by exposing his most telling phrase yet. Just 4 words from the former Fox News host say everything. This is not a news source, but I'll read what they're saying because they have influence. Jimmy Kimmel renewed his feud with Tucker Carlson on Wednesday after the former Fox News host announced he was in Russia. Why? Why is anyone getting their opinions from Jimmy Kimmel on Tucker Carlson? Jimmy Kimmel is dumb as a box of rocks. Quote, Tucker Carlson still doesn't have a job. He's in Moscow, house hunting, I hope. Carlson, a far-right conspiracy theorist whose shows have been marked by racism, xenophobia, and white nationalism, said he was going to interview Russian President Vladimir Putin. He's a murderer. He's a war criminal. He hates America. He hates everything America stands for. He's a liar and a propagandist. But Tuck thinks we need to hear him out. Yes, that's called academia. It's called journalism. But Jimmy Kimmel is a very stupid man. A very stupid and evil man who once wished death on his own friends. He's a scumbag. I'm not kidding. Tucker Carlson doesn't have a job. Is that a joke? Tucker Carlson makes millions per year at his job, running his show. What a weird game to play. But imagine, the people who don't get their news from anywhere else are sitting here laughing, being like, haha, he doesn't have a job. He got fired by Fox. It's the weirdest thing. When Tucker got fired, AOC was cheering it on, saying that deplatforming works. Now Tucker Carlson is public enemy number one to these people. I want to show you this. It's a viral interview that's been going around. CNN did with Zelensky. Take a listen.
A human being, so many people look up to you. They rely on you. No one can imagine how hard that is. Do you do anything for yourself? Are you ever able to take a minute to read or to listen to music or something to sort of give yourself that a moment?
I have such moments, important, to be in silence, to be alone. Alone, how can I be alone? Alone, I can be with music.
Okay. We're done with this. I mean, the lady's on the verge of tears as they propagandize Ukraine. Here's the important point, my friends. The important point is that we are dealing with a corrupt political establishment in this country. The Constitution has been ripped to shreds. The function of our government is non-existent. It is supposed to be that Congress declares war. They haven't in a long time, I think, since what, Korea? We are now at war with Russia. That's why they are upset that Tucker Carlson is interviewing Vladimir Putin. We have never declared war on Russia, but we're certainly at war with them. And so is the rest of NATO. Chuck Schumer said in an interview, we could lose this war. Now they're saying the quiet part out loud. Without a declaration, without a news report. They've denied it. They've insisted. They have spat in your face. We're not at war. It's Ukraine. We're just assisting them. U.S. boots are on the ground. U.S. weapons are on the ground. U.S. intelligence guides the actions of Ukraine. Now, the U.S. has not formally mobilized its military forces to enter Ukraine, but of course, this is phase one. Think about where you're at. Zelensky is a puppet. He's a figurehead. I doubt he could actually command what's going on in Ukraine if he wanted to. Now, he may be the absolute final say in Ukraine when it comes to the conflict, but not outside of Ukraine. So he's likely getting, let's just call it, advice externally. You want our weapons, you do what we say. You want our assistance, you do what we say. We're not going to give you the intel on this unless you strike this ship. Ukraine, of course, being used as a proxy for the United States to go to war with Russia. Politico actually has the gall to compare Tucker Carlson to Walter Duranty, the man who denied the Holodomor. Absolutely incredible. At a time where we as American citizens do not want war, consistently vote against it. Barack Obama campaigned against war and then massively increased it because these politicians know if you want to vote, you cannot be in favor of war. Now, some people will vote in favor of it, don't get me wrong. But here we are. The notorious Walter Duranty of the New York Times and Nazi broadcaster Lord Haha offer cautionary tales. Is that a joke? It must be. Explain to the American people how we've gotten to this point, where there is a war happening in Eastern Europe for which the American people never voted for which Congress never declared. And the bad guy is Tucker Carlson. I'm sorry, America. Our country is being occupied by evil. Now, perhaps these men think they're good, men and women. Perhaps they think they're saving this country. They're evil. That's it. There's no question. The intelligence agents, the corporate press, abject evil. Because it doesn't matter what they think. They are not the will of the people. It doesn't matter if they think this country will fall apart. Sorry, don't care. It's fascinating. I'm reminded of that quote by a not so great character to reference, but that is Rorschach in the Watchmen series. This was, I believe it was Alan Moore who wrote this. Let me make sure I got that right. Was it Alan Moore? It was Alan Moore. Yeah. Watchmen. What a great graphic novel. Let me explain. Rorschach has a quote, and it's never compromise, not even in the face of Armageddon. And it seems like a terrifying thing to say, honestly. But there is, I think, an important caveat. In the graphic novel, for those that aren't familiar, there is a villain. There's some kind of conspiracy going on. And it turns out that one of the alleged heroes orchestrated a false alien invasion to force the Soviet Union and the United States to unite against a common enemy to prevent nuclear annihilation. In doing so, this faux hero murders, I think, millions of people in various major cities. But then the Cold War ends when the Soviet Union and the United States announce an alliance to fight this perceived alien threat. In the film that came out, they made it that there was this other character, Dr. Manhattan, who had done it. But either way, the idea is to unite the various countries against a common enemy, preventing war. And the hero says, killing millions to save billions. Rorschach says the people must be told and leaves. Dr. Manhattan, a character, informs him that he can't do that. If he were to inform the people of the world what had happened, it would plunge the world into chaos once again. So Rorschach refuses to compromise and tells Dr. Manhattan to kill him. And he screams, do it. It's the only way to stop him. Otherwise, he's telling the people the truth. And then he gets vaporized and explodes. It's an interesting question, I guess. Love that story. Brilliant writing by some smart guys. I'm not going to sit here and pretend who's right or wrong. But my view is that there is an expectation of what is and is not acceptable, what is and is not just. And in this country, the people have a right to know, even if it means they choose wrong. That's free will. It's a scary prospect, I guess. Perhaps there are people in the deep state, in the bureaucratic system, the intelligence agencies, who are sitting there desperately believing, if we don't do this, we will cease to exist. We have no choice. I still believe they are the evil, the villain of that movie, of that graphic novel. I know people get mad when I say movie because it's a graphic novel first. The villain was allegedly the hero, one of the heroes trying to save the world from annihilation. I believe that's evil. I believe it's absolutely evil to subvert the will of the people, to destroy its founding documents, to lie, cheat, and steal over their individual perception of what is just and what isn't. In this graphic novel, it's probably simple to say. Superpowered individuals, well, there's only one real superpowered individual, but a very wealthy, evil man, knows nuclear annihilation is coming. They know if the people find out what really transpired, the world could be destroyed in nuclear annihilation. Here's the real world. Everyone thinks they know. The dictators think they know. It is their way that must be done. And they're wrong every single time. Because a single human does not have the computational capabilities to really understand the full ramifications. There's so many variables that we can calculate as individuals. What ends up happening is you get people who say, I know I'm right, therefore. So sure, in the deep state, these intelligence agents may genuinely believe, if I don't do this, we die. But you know what? They're wrong. Because they're always wrong. Because they can't be right. They can't predict the future. There are certainly some things they may believe and may be correct about. Sure. The problem then becomes when a small group of individuals believing that they are morally just decide to commit crimes in the name of good. The ends do not justify the means because we never meet the ends. We are only ever just living in a solid state reality of morality. That is, this is it. What we do today is what we live in. Believing in some greater good in the future that justifies the use of evil just means you have created evil now. And we live in evil. These men in these institutions who are lying to the American people, who have engaged in international warfare without the appropriate constitutional process, are evil, abject evil. They believe they are morally justified. They believe they are holy paladins fighting the good fight. Some are just corrupt evil who want the free money. They'll do the contracts to get paid, and they'll blow up kids to get it done. And you know what? The scary thought is, of course, we have villains around the world. We have adversaries seeking to lie, cheat, and steal and take power. But this idea that you can subvert the founding documents, our institutions, because you know that you are right. I got news for you. You've already destroyed this country. So at what point what does it even matter? You think that you will be defending this nation and our values and ideals, or some liberal economic order to prevent World War III. I assure you, you are only creating it. Because with a snap of your fingers, you have created the tyranny and the chaos you claimed you were fighting against. There's no easy answer. I'm not a moron. I don't have an easy answer for you. Perhaps the reality is humans, through their processes and through their decisions, will bring about their own destruction. But so be it. That's free will. In my view, a decentralized approach to this is the appropriate way to solve these problems. When a single individual or group of individuals believe that they're so right, their will be done, regardless of the process, regardless of the law, you get tyranny, suffering, and they're not right. Sometimes, but usually not. I look at it like the decentralized process that we've created tends to work better. How did we get to the point where the United States was the most powerful nation, the best nation, economically superior? Meritocratic systems. It's not without government institutions, top secret documents, backroom deals. That I understand. There's a balance. But the world we are in today, where a unilateral war is declared against Russia, and they lie to our faces and tell us to shut up and sit down, it's because they're evil. We certainly have problems, but I view it as this. I truly believe that each and every individual in this country is capable of appropriate decision making, whether it be, I'm going to sit this one out because I think you're better suited for this, or I genuinely believe this or that is a better idea. The problem? The corporate press lies to people to keep them stupid. That's mostly it. Under the idea it's better to control the minds and treat them like morons, like chickens in a chicken coop, than to respect what their will is. In the end, the powers that be view us just as that, livestock. They don't care about you as an individual. They don't care what happens to you. They care about your output to work towards their ends because they're smarter and they're better than you. And if you get obliterated, collateral damage, what do they care? That's why when Donald Trump said he wanted our troops out of Syria, they lied to him, they lied to us, and they kept the troops in. Because your will be damned. They don't care. Right now, I tell you this. The deep state does not have the majority. Donald Trump has the majority. The overwhelming majority of this country does not want war and opposes it. But they seek to make it anyway because they are evil people. If the will of the United States is to avoid international conflict, and that truly does lead to a unipolar Chinese communist world, well, so be it. The will of the people decide. These spineless cowards, I am glad to see that they are losing. Bravo to Tucker Carlson. I hope you all check out his interview, 6 p.m. on his website. It is tuckercarlson.com. Should be very interesting. I'm going to leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.